Welcome to Carousel. Tonight we're going to hop on the carousel and find interesting people and talk about interesting things. Tonight I'm delighted to have with us Jennifer Angerame. And Jennifer has started a business 15 years ago and has had a successful time making children's clothing and using recycled materials in that endeavor. And so many people start businesses and they don't always work out, so congratulations. You're 15 years into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit, you clearly have a fashion background, there's a lot of things that happened to get you to the point where you're selling children's clothing now. So take us back to the college dorm. What were you doing back then?
Studying fashion out in West Texas.
Okay.
I'd always wanted to be in fashion, wanted to be a model. Started sewing when I was probably about 10, 12 years old. I come from a long line of seamstresses. My grandmother still sews. And so studied fashion and just wanted to stay with it. At that point, it was evening wear. I don't know why, but that, struck me in college. I needed evening gowns. And then went to work for Perry Ellis Menswear, which again was a little bit different avenue, but stayed in clothing.
But you had some early endeavors where you made greeting cards, correct?
Yes, that is how Southern Yankee was born.
Okay.
The first year we were married, I made my own Christmas card and sent it to my friends, and everyone's like, "Wow, you should sell these."
Right, and the really unique part about what began as cards and now it's clothing is that it's an eco-friendly business, of course, and you're using past mementos to make something for the generations going forward. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So that little portion started, I started collecting hankies because they were pretty, and I had no idea what I was going to do with them, but I just wanted to own them. And I started having kids and had this little business going and decided how I was going to make blankets, but I was like, that takes a lot of hankies.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of handkerchiefs.
To make a big blanket.
So I saw something similar with, like a dish towel idea, and, I was like, well, why couldn't I turn that into a little dress that is very usable because it's a onesie base, but then very different and unique because they all use vintage handkerchiefs.
Right.
And so I would find stashes of that, and then it went to doilies and napkins and tablecloths
and so many things.
Yeah, and other just neat linens that I could find.
Well, let's show everyone sort of what we're talking about, and then it'll mean even more. But these are some of the creations that you make for children, and basically, this is what?
This is a tablecloth from a friend who was cleaning out her parents' apartment, and they had stacks of tablecloths, and she was like, I know you can do something with this. And so it did sit in my office for a while because I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with it? And so just recently I started cutting it apart, and it's like that would make a great little dress you could wear, to a fancy party.
Of course.
If you needed to be dressed up and you're 3 months old.
And you're 3 months old, absolutely. And then just to show one other example, you were talking about your love of hankies and collecting all these wonderful hankies. And so you have this, and tell us about how you do this.
It's my original, and it's just a great little, again, totally wearable. You can wash it, dry it, which is the mother in me. I'm like, it's got to be able to,
you got to be able to wash it.
Put OxyClean on it. But they look like they're wearing a little dress. And again, they're all different because they are all vintage. I find the hankies everywhere. But what's been fun about this is friends have mailed me their grandmother's handkerchief.
Exactly.
And so then now the great-granddaughter is wearing something that would have just been in a drawer.
Yeah.
And so the family heirloom kind of comes back out. And
so is that how it works then? People choose what they want, and then they send you something very special from their own collections?
Yeah, so it can be anything as simple as a handkerchief. I also did have someone mail me, when you have your wedding dress altered and there's usually leftover fabric. She sent me her wedding lace. And so I made a dress for her daughter out of her wedding lace.
Wow.
And then I think she carried red roses, so I put a little red rose at the neckline. And it was just a way for her to incorporate her daughter into
the wedding special. Is sort of into, great.
So,
what are some, I know you've had some really cherished stories that have come through, some of the more poignant ones. Why don't you tell us one?
The best one is, so another thing that I can do is a dress shirt and a tie, which is not feminine at all. It's something that Daddy has. So it's somebody who I make dresses for with other pieces. It was her father's, and she said he never ever got dressed up. He owned one tie and one dress shirt, and he passed away before his first granddaughter was born.
Okay.
So she mailed me. She asked her brother if it was okay. Can we use Dad's only only tie and only shirt? And brother said yes. So I made a dress for her daughter, and when she got it, the little girl hugged it and said, "Oh, it's Papa." And she never knew her Papa, but she knew the significance of
The garment.
the garment, and it was just cool that now she had something from her grandfather, and
Yeah.
it was neat. Like when the mom emailed me that, I was like,
Yeah, that's why you're in it. Right?
yeah. So it makes it just very special.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so you started this business. You're originally from Dallas,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And then now you're in Connecticut. So you started the business based on the family heirlooms and sort of this whole concept and your fashion background. What is sort of your philosophy of business, having started this and been so successful with it?
I just love to create and make things, and just I love seeing something and being like, okay, what can I now make out of that? You know, if it's just a really cool button, okay, it's a button, but now what else can I make it into?
It's very creative.
Yeah, it's fun, and everything is different. You know, I might make 10 of these, but yet they're all different.
Right.
And, you know, the fabrics then speak to each person. Or the trim. Oh, my grandmother used to tat, so they want the one that has, you know, the fancy edging.
Right, right.
So I just love that I can keep taking something and, you know, twisting it, making it a little different and, you know, modern for something a child would wear today.
Right. So you must be quite an antiquer.
Yeah.
That's a collector.
Yes.
You like buttons and
I like
things like
buttons.
that.
I like garage sales. I like flea
Yeah,
markets.
all of that. And that's how do you come up with ideas for new garments and things for the children?
You know, I ended up with, again, the friend that gave me the tablecloths, tons and tons of napkins. And I'm like, okay, what am I doing with napkins? Napkins. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'll make a little apron out of a collection of napkins. And
For the child or for the mom?
for the child.
Okay.
So I was like, that would be a fun way for napkins. And then she's like, oh, well, I'm afraid she couldn't wear it. I'm like, it's a napkin. She can wipe her mouth on it. And
yeah.
if it gets dirty, you clean it.
Yeah, it's washable.
You know, it's usable, washable, but it was a way to make something new with this giant stack of napkins that I had just inherited.
Wow. So when you started this out, what were your challenges? Basically, sort of, it's a creative idea. It's not easy to do. You're doing all the sewing predominantly yourself.
I'm doing it all myself.
Yeah.
Initially, because we lived in Manhattan space, because, you know, apartment was this big, so production had to remain small.
Yes, a sewing needle,
Yeah,
basically.
everything on small scales. You know, just finding the time, finding the linens, you know, because I might find 3 or 4 handkerchiefs, and then they're gone, and then you find like 12 handkerchiefs. So that was the biggest challenge at first, is finding
the
the
vintage
pieces.
items.
Right.
But the people who buy from you, they usually supply that because it's a family.
They will. If
something
you
special.
seek me out, then they have already provided the actual items.
But you actually do another line where it's things that you've found and just incorporated
Yes.
because they're adorable.
Right. So
Okay.
you might buy, it's not your linens, but you remember, you know, my grandmother used to have these, and she had
So
that
there's
doily
that
in her living room.
connection.
Yes.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier when you bring me your family pieces, because then all we have to do is decide, you know, what size. Do you want her to wear it this spring or next spring? And
Right,
do you want a
right.
color?
Right, right.
So that's a lot easier.
So do you sketch things out, given your fashion background and
I
things?
haven't sketched in a few years. You know, they can look at some of the other things I've made, and I try and stick with, you know, cotton bases so that it's soft for the kids and comfortable and
Washable.
And I do try and use made in the USA cotton
Products.
bases. So, you know, if there's something truly specific, then we could work it out, or they could rip it out of a magazine and can it look like this? We can do that, but, you know.
Now the onesies themselves, the base of it, those are American made, or
Yes.
are those recycled?
No, I
do
do
people
start with
supply
all
those?
new cotton bases.
That's a new
Yeah,
cotton
so if it's a
base.
t-shirt, it's a new cotton t-shirt, unless you gave it to me because it's her favorite t-shirt.
Okay.
And in one case, one mom did because she only liked this certain type of t-shirt, so she went and bought that specific one
And
because she
gave
knew
that
her
to
daughter
you.
would wear it.
Interesting.
Right, so the onesies I do, they are all made in America.
Okay, that's great. Now, you you have people come to you with these ideas, you make them happen. Have you had any other challenges outside of sort of finding the right materials and things like that, just in terms of running your own business? What's been difficult over the 15 years?
I joke, being the CEO, the CFO, the designer, the webmaster, the accountant, sales, that has been the trick.
Yeah, do everything. Yeah.
You know, I can't spend my day sewing, which is what I would really like to be doing.
Right, right.
You know, there's a little accounting that needs to be done every once in a while, tweak the website, you know, look for different avenues, whether it's a craft show. I try and do a couple a year.
Right.
So it's finding which show would be good. You know, is it a preschool dominant show? That's great.
Right, that will work for
that's your market.
That's your audience.
Right. And then you spend a week or two sewing, getting ready for it, and then you spend the weekend at the event. So that takes time to find out where do I need to be, where do I want to be, and then what also fits in with, you know, my family
with your
schedule.
Now, you're a mother
Yes.
of how many children?
3.
3 children. So you're balancing that.
Yes.
You're balancing your business. I know you are an editor of a website on the side, so you have a full plate.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you can tell our audience how to juggle all that?
Get a great computer that works.
Oh,
you know,
so the technology needs to sort of work for you.
It does. I keep my computer in the kitchen, so you can always walk by and
just do some things.
And you know, I don't have like set times, and I think that's what I've had to learn. I have to be flexible. If I have a 2-hour chunk, then that's when I can sit down and sew or put my head down to a new idea, but know that there might be a bus coming in 30 minutes.
Right. Are you bringing little things to sew to the soccer games on the sidelines?
You'll usually see me needle pointing.
Oh, you'll needle point at that time.
So
is needle pointing part of the product line?
No, it's not. It's just what I love to do.
Wow.
I will actually sit in my car and string hang tags. That is one thing that's very portable, cutting the ribbons and punching holes. And that's very portable. So you might see me doing that in my car.
What do your children think?
My daughter loves it. She loves coming into my office because there's ribbons and buttons and fabric.
I bet that's ephemera.
Pink shelf and a blue this and
yeah.
My boys, for whatever reason, love playing with the pin cushion and the spools of thread.
How old are the children?
They are 6, 8, and 12.
6, 8, and 12. Okay, so they're old enough to certainly have an interest in what you're doing.
Yes.
Now, when they were younger, did you have the business when they were younger? So,
yeah,
did this kind of come to be around making things for them?
I started it because I always knew I wanted to stay home once we had kids. So I was like, I need my little something. And then my oldest was a boy, so he was not one of my first models.
Right. He wasn't your target market.
No, he was not it. But I was like, ooh, babies. So it was just something that I knew that I could do with them. And then, you know, in the early years, it was during nap time, or you know, babies go to bed early, so then I could sew at night. So the sewing is now shifted during school hours.
So what is your dream for the business? Are you trying to grow it? Are you where you want to be with it?
I would love for it to grow a little, but I do still love the fact that I do it all. You know, everything, when I do a show, someone's like, who makes this? I'm like, I make it all. So there is a sense of pride that I do still do it.
That it's yours.
Yeah, it's me. It's all me. I would love for it, of course, to grow more, but not beyond my reach.
Right, so you want to have an intimate relationship with the business.
You know, it's like today I packaged up 2 and put them in the mail, and I was kind of giggling like, oh, there they go.
It's still fun.
It's fun, yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's great, as long as it's still fun,
yes.
Right? That keeps your interest for sure. Do you have pieces that you're most proud of?
I would say the shirt and tie dress for the grandfather, that was just, it was cool. You know, I'd made them for other people, but it was more like daddy's shirt.
Right.
And then this one just had the meaning. The wedding lace was very cool. I have to admit I was totally nervous cutting into it. Even though it had already been cut off the original dress, it was just, you know, here we go.
Yeah.
Measure twice.
Yeah, right. This is all we have left.
So those, you know, are, you know, and anything I make for my daughter, of course, is fun.
And what ages do you tend to work with in terms of your clothing?
The babies seem to be the best because, you know, it's fun, it's little, it's cute, and babies just look cute. And then, you know, kind of around 6 years old, they get opinions about what they want to wear. And
so we're done. That's when we're done.
Yeah.
Because they may not want to wear hankies anymore.
Right. But if you want, you know, if you have an 8-year-old, I would still make it. I just wouldn't offer it
That's not your
yeah.
main audience.
Right.
Right. That makes sense. So you're thinking about, you're at a good place. You may want to grow it a little bit. You want to have your hands on the business at all times. What challenges do you face in terms of managing your other career alongside this one? We have the whole family and the business, but then you do have
just time.
Yeah.
There's only so many hours in the day, and lately it's with all the snow and the school
here in
schedules, it's
Connecticut.
eating into
Yes.
the daytime, and everyone's schedules go nuts. So the biggest challenge, I would say, for anybody who's going to start a home-based business is your time. And how are you going to do it? Are you going to do it each day? Are you going to only work 1 day a week? Are you going to work 1 hour every day? That would be the biggest hurdle, is
finding that. Which it sounds like, from what you said, your sort of solution to that is don't look for the hours and hours of time, waiting for that 6-hour day to happen. Just if there's an hour before the soccer game, if there's 2 hours when you're home, that's when you do the work, which is kind of interesting. It's a real, it's really integrated into your life in that way. It's not a separate
I try and
component.
keep the mess in my office, but at any given time, my kitchen table will
has your buttons
have
and
stuff
beads.
to be cut and pinned and all that, because the kids can be running around and I'm still there, but I'm pinning away. And
so it's been 15 years. Again, that's a great achievement.
Thank you.
What has changed since you began? Does technology affect you at all? Or?
Hugely, and that's one other thing when I was speaking of my time, is how much time I'm now spending on the computer, the social world that's out there now, that even 5 years ago, I wasn't on Facebook and Twitter, and it takes time. It's a great way to stay connected.
Right.
Because I'll post a picture of a dress that I made for baby so-and-so, and you get all the oohs and the ahs on Facebook, but that takes time.
Right.
That's been, I think, the biggest change that I can notice.
So prior to that, when you began 15 years ago, you were probably doing more direct mail kind of
postcards
things. Yeah,
and,
postcards and things like that. So now you've moved it all online.
Yeah, so you're now collecting email addresses. You don't need a street address unless you're mailing it to them. But
right, it is.
That's been a big
different.
change of the technology side of it. I mean, my sewing machine is 40 some odd years old, so that hasn't
really?
Yeah, it is. It hasn't changed.
It's your great grandmother's or something.
I actually bought it with, I think, my high school graduation money.
Really?
I did,
so
yes.
That's wonderful. I love it. Tell us a little bit about the process of from when you receive an order and something in the mail, and this gorgeous piece comes to you, this handkerchief or whatever, to the finished product. What is the time frame for something like that for you?
Turnaround time is not that long, because we're talking about a one piece. Someone's not ordering 3 dozen for their nieces.
True, it's a one.
The first thing I do is, I take a picture, and then I put it out in the social world, like, here's the new project I'm working on, and if it had a back history of, this is grandpa's shirt, this is grandma's hanky.
Before you've made anything.
Yeah,
you'll
so I
take
give like a
picture.
sneak peek
Okay.
of what's the next project. Wash and dry everything, because I want it shrunk, because it's going to shrink.
It's going to shrink.
Iron the hankies, and then cutting whatever needs to be cut apart, pinning it, sewing it, and then I have to make my little hang tag. Everything gets my little label
Your
in the
logos
neckline,
and right.
and then in the mail, and then I take a finished product, put
And
that
mail it
back
back.
out. Unless it's a surprise, then I wait till I know the person has gotten it, and then I'll put it out.
I would imagine
And-
lots of people order for baby showers, and it's a
Big baby
gift item,
yes.
I bet. Yeah, it's very special that way, I can imagine. So what is your overall philosophy about business, would you say?
Just go for it.
Try it?
Yeah, try it. It's something, if you have an idea or if you have a passion, just try it. You have nothing to lose, that you don't want to ever look back and be like, what, I could have, I had the
done
idea,
it.
I want,
Someone else did it.
Yeah, so go for it, see what sticks, because again, I started doing greeting cards. The first greeting card was with ribbons sewn onto a card, and then here we are, still with ribbons and sewing machines, but clothing.
Some people say when you take a passion and you bring it into, making it more of a business, that you lose the passion. Has that when a writer writes creatively, but then they become a journalist and they have to produce on a daily
Right.
basis, it sort of changes things a little bit. Did that happen with some of your?
There have been times when I'm like, what have I gotten myself into?
I bet.
Just because everything that's going on in life and this, and if there is somebody who needs it, I'm like,
Right away.
Or, my machine jams and it's like, oh, I told her I'd have it to her by 3 o'clock today and now my machine won't work.
No, it's not working.
But other than that, and I think that's why I'm trying to keep it reined in to where I do still enjoy it. I
Yeah.
do still love it. That, it's not too overwhelming at any given day. And I think that helps.
Yeah.
That, if I was nationwide in every store, it would lose. Then
Some
I'd
of
be
the
managing
charm for
people,
you.
and then I'm like, I'm already managing 3 people. I don't.
Right, you have your children.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of keeping it small. I was surprised, not small, but I was surprised when you said that we could find you needle pointing, because essentially you use your free time to sew. And you're sewing all the time. I mean, so you're obviously really following your passion.
I like to do things. Again, I come from a long line of that. Seamstresses. My grandparents are both very hands-on creative. My mom is. My dad can tinker. So I think it's just I do better sitting with something.
Did your love of this sort of come from your family? Were they artists and creators as well?
Yeah, my grandmother started sewing when she was a child. She taught my mom. My grandmother used to sew for like the entire town in East Texas. She did like the majorette uniforms, and she still sews for herself now, not anybody else. And then my mom used to make all my clothes and my brother's matching suits, and so it just was very.
It's a real tradition.
Yeah, and I used to go into my mom's sewing room and play with her needles and threads. And
Are you self-taught with sewing, or?
I was originally, and then through college had professional training. And my dad still laughs like, "Where'd you learn to do all this?" And I'm
Right.
like, well, I did.
Right. Is this what you planned when you were in college? Did you see yourself doing something like this with your
I knew I
fashion?
wanted to be in fashion. Again, where it was going to take me, I wasn't sure, but it's just something I always liked. I designed my first clothing line when I was 10, I think, and I sold it to my neighbor.
Yeah.
I still have the invoices to prove.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
That's
so
a great story.
It was just always there. What it was going to ever be, I didn't know, but.
Do you ever wonder, was it Perry Ellis you worked at?
Ellis,
Yeah, so you could be working for Perry Ellis right now.
I could.
How do you feel about that? Do you have regrets about not going more
I
of the
miss
big time,
the
or?
group. The designers it was a fun group of people, but it's not where I could be. I wanted to be a mom. So, and it would have been really hard to be doing that and this and
Right,
2 very different places.
right.
So
How long did you actually
I was
work?
there for 5 years.
So you had a good
Yeah.
stint there, working for other people. So did you sort of have a dream to work for yourself as well? Was that part of this?
Yeah, I actually started my company while I was at Perry Ellis.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
So, because I knew it was like this, I'm not going to be here forever, or maybe at another company forever. So what's it going to be that I could take with me wherever I go?
Do you recommend that for folks who are thinking about starting their own business, sort of doing it while you have the safe haven of another business?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have the time, if you have the space, absolutely, because it would be really hard to just step away from the paycheck, the benefits, the steady income, and just jump in. Mine started very literally a little basket this tall was where it all started. And then
You mean with your little things? in
yes,
it
all my
and
little
whatnot?
things all organized. Our apartment was that big too, so
Right.
I'd
With 4 kids.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
was able to grow with us in our life, but yet kind of had the real job to keep us grounded.
Right. That's interesting. I think that, a lot of younger people coming into business today, they really want that sort of situation that they can live with as part of their life versus sort of this component that is the office that sort
Right.
of drives you crazy. So it sounds like you've really done that, which is, again, that's a feat in itself. Let's see. We sort of talked about what your eureka moments were in your business, but did you have something when you were in college and working on the greeting cards where you said, oh, this could be fashion, or how did that happen?
In college, I had a couple other entrepreneurial stints, out of the dorm rooms, and
Tell us about that.
I did nails. Totally different. And then off that, then
As a business in
yeah,
college?
as a business. And then
Okay.
I had my own line of fingernail polish. So you not only do your nails, but then you could buy my polish.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I'd made jewelry out of like your broken bits of jewelry. I could make you a big broachy thing.
Wow.
Picture frames. Yeah.
So you
It's
always
been-
have this, you're like a little magpie in a way. Bringing all these
Well,
things
when I was
together.
a kid, I
It's
used
wonderful.
to like keep collections of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like little
yeah.
cans and jars of stuff.
Are your children that way now?
Yeah, my daughter carries around bags
Pass
of
it around.
stuff.
She does.
Yeah.
They're collectors.
You go in her room and it's containers of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
She has her own little sewing machine now in her room.
So you're passing it on.
Yeah.
Would you hope that your children would take part in the business? Would you see it going that far for you? For that long?
I could totally see my daughter one day like pitching in, pinning, sewing, some of the, basic stuff. I think it'd be great one day if my oldest could take over the website stuff. That he
yeah,
could, what,
see?
can you go enter this? Can you go do that? And then my youngest, right now he'll just play with the thread.
Yeah, she'll just, yeah. Well, wouldn't that be nice to
Yeah.
sort of be able to play? I always think that with my own children, how nice to have the business and then have something for them to go into,
Right.
given the way the economy is and whatnot. So any stumbling blocks that you would warn people starting a business about, anything that you really did wrong? And
I
say,
don't think I ever
do
really
that."
did anything wrong, and I'm
Okay.
not saying that.
Yeah, no.
It just grew steadily over the years. I didn't just jump off. It just has kind of continued to go with our life.
So an organic approach.
Yes, exactly. That,
Okay.
the only thing I would say is if you want to do it, don't be afraid. Do a little research. The first book I bought was Kitchen Table Millionaire. And I sat there and read, it was about a woman
Wow.
who just started it and was like, it literally started at my kitchen table. I didn't go rent an office.
Right. Keeping it small, making
yeah.
it happen.
So that would be my only advice. But
Sort
if you
of.
have the idea and the will, then try it.
Right.
You never know.
Yeah, well, clearly that can work, as you've certainly showed us. Well, we certainly wish you all the best with your business.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. And we'll see what your next products are and how you're going to dress the babies in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.